Hello, lovely people of the interwebs. It's Josh coming to you with this week's Tarot Snapshot. This is roughly a 10-minute video that is going to show us where we're at in this moment, what vexes and perplexes us, what heals and reveals. 3 cards. If you're a card reader, oracle cards, runes, what have you, you can use this format. Just take a snapshot as to where you're at, what's your biggest challenge, and what's your biggest guidance. Now, this week we're going to balance like sweet and sour. We're going to have a little bit of fun using the Halloween tarot deck. We only have a certain amount of time left in October. Yet I want to talk about something that is weighing on my heart. Not for me necessarily, but for the people in my life and the people that I sit with and all of this. So before we jump into the cards, I want to talk about how important it is to forgive ourselves for the versions that we used to be. So there are times in my life where I look at my past. I mean, I'm 45 now. I look at times in my life where I did not like who I was. I didn't like the way I behaved. I didn't like the way I acted. And now, looking back on those versions of me, I don't judge myself. I don't beat myself up for the person that did the best they could with what they had. Me, in my life, I've made mistakes. Some of those mistakes have hurt people. The difference between making mistakes and doing something wrong is I've never intentionally meant to hurt anybody. So for you, in your world, I'm sure that you have versions of yourself that were in the past that made mistakes. Perhaps some of those mistakes caused pain or imbalance in the lives of the people that you love. Yet, did you mean to? Or did you do the best you could with what you had? Did you do the best you could with the limited amount of experience and wisdom that you had at the time? I believe so. In the way that you would give other people grace for the same, I want to encourage you to have grace for yourself around the same sort of situation. So, with that being said, let's shuffle the Halloween tarot 3 times and see if maybe the cards kind of expand on that idea. Whether it does or not, I want you to give yourself grace. I want you to forgive yourself for the versions that you might not be happy with and the parts of yourself that maybe still carry a little bit of shame. What's wonderful about my connection to spirit is that I don't have any shame. I have no guilt. I have no regret, because I know even the darkest parts of me and the worst version of myself never meant to hurt anyone or make any mistakes. Yet I was human and I did the best I could with what I had. Now, the card that represents us right now at this time, it's the Star card. Okay. Baby, you're a star. Now, this is a card of healing and hope. Absolutely. It's also the card that comes after the Tower in tarot, and there's a saying in tarot that says you can't go through the tower, or you can't get to the star without going through the tower. And that's there's truth to that. And I guess that lines up with what I've been saying here. We can't become the brightest and best version of ourselves without going through a certain amount of destruction or learning. And we have to learn. Something that's really been sitting with me lately is that there's a vast difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is something that you can get out of a book. Wisdom is something that you can only earn through experience. And the Star card. Do this for me before we get much further into the other cards. I want you to think about a part of your life that you regret. Think of a part of your life that you have shame or regret around. If you can hold on to that, I want you to imagine a loved one feeling that way about that circumstance. If you have a child, imagine your child feeling that regret. Do you have a sibling or a best friend? Imagine somebody you love feeling that way about a circumstance like that. And if you had somebody that you love that felt a certain way, like you did around that situation, I want you to imagine the grace and the wisdom and the guidance that you would give them. Around your regret, shame, or guilt, are you talking to yourself in the same way that you would want a loved one to talk to themselves about that circumstance? If if not, that's actually what I believe sinning is. Now, I don't like that word sinning, and if there is a sin in this world, it's participating in a behavior that separates us from love. The golden rule is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. The other part of the golden rule, do unto yourself as you'd want others to do unto themselves. Are you talking to yourself in the same way that you would want a child to? I'm not sure. I know I do my best to do that because peace should be my birthright, and I want everybody that I love to know peace. So if I walk around beating myself up over something that I wouldn't want somebody else to beat themselves up over, I increase my suffering. I increase the suffering of my grandma's spirit. You think my grandmother wants to watch her grandson walk around and be a miserable asshole to himself? No. So I'm not going to be. I'm still blessed to have my parents. I want them to be at peace. I am going to be at peace so my parents can be at peace. The card that vexes and perplexes us, though. The Five of Ghosts, which is the Five of Cups, which is grief. So, do you feel guilty about anything? What good does guilt serve? Now, guilt could serve something. Say, I hate to use this example, but it illustrates it. Say a person who would have driven drunk and hurt somebody, possibly. Well, guilt would be a natural extension of that because guilt would perhaps be the tool that helps them not do that thing again. But let's say that I bump into somebody at the grocery store with my grocery cart. I didn't mean to bump their ankle. Didn't mean to hit them. I apologize. I'm not going to walk away feeling guilty. I made a mistake. I would never want anybody else to feel guilty for that. So that's another example. So I think that grief, shame, guilt, regret, those are things that we have to skillfully interact with in a way that we want other people to interact with them. That's where we find our peace. But that grief, that shame, that regret, that guilt that can be seen in the Five of Cups is something that can be very real for us. The card that heals and reveals, though, is the Ace of Ghosts, which is the Ace of Cups, which is just love itself. The secret to life to me is, what would I tell my child? If my child is feeling guilty, what would I tell him? And then I tell myself that. I give myself the love that I would want my child to have. That is a life hack. That is, to me, the secret to life. I want my grandmother to rest in peace. I'm gonna live in peace. I want everybody that I love to be at peace. I want my son to be at peace, my husband to be at peace, my parents, my friends to be at peace. I have to be at peace. I can find peace by giving myself love. Now, something to consider. There are people in this world who would not want me to do that, who would want me to suffer, who would want me to know guilt and pain and regret and shame and all of that. That love that I have is something that nobody can take from me. The love that I carry is limitless. I've got one son. If I had 3 children, I'd be able to love them all. If I had 5 kids, I'd be able to love them all. It's not like I'm gonna get to kid 6 and run out of love. I have enough love for me. That love that I carry is limitless. There's no end to it. I don't have to go anywhere for it. I don't have to spend any money for it. I turn that onto me and nobody can take that away from me. Do you see the power in that? Even the most awful people that I've had in my life that would not want me to know peace, they can't take my love from me. They can try, but they can't. Ultimate life hack. So, I want you to walk away from this with that. Shine brightly like a star. Ease your pain and suffering by giving yourself the love that you would want others to give themselves. And with that, you'll find peace, which, shouldn't have to tell you this, is your birthright. So thank you for being here. Much love to you. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.